They called him a hero. Then they fired him. In one night, he stopped a $100 million breach. And in the morning, he was escorted out like a criminal. But what the company didn't know was that firing Derek Miles would be the biggest mistake in their history. Because the real enemy was still inside. It started with a flicker, and a red light no one else would have noticed. Derek Miles sat alone in the dim glow of the security booth. Nights were always the same, the soft hum of the HVAC, the slow crawl of shift reports, the occasional beep from a door sensor. Then, it flashed again. Unauthorized access attempt. He leaned closer. IP address, unknown. Not linked to any registered device. And the location? Server room 03B, a restricted zone for high-clearance staff only. His gut clenched. Most guards would log it, send a ticket to IT, and move on. But Derek wasn't most guards. The pings were too regular, too calculated. The kind of digital footsteps someone leaves when they want to look like they belong. He swiped his ID, bypassing standard protocols, and headed straight for the elevator. The door to 03B swung open with a hiss. Cold air. Rows of blinking servers. And there, a man in a janitor's uniform, crouched at the main cabinet. Screwdriver in hand. Panel wide open. No IT badge. No ID. Hey! Derek's voice cracked like a whip. The man froze. The tool hit the floor. Then, he bolted. They thundered down the corridor. At the stairwell, the intruder vanished. Back in the server room, Derek scanned the panel. The backup line had been bypassed. And behind the primary port, a tiny, black microchip. He slipped it into his pocket. Whatever it was, it didn't belong here. By morning, the hero was on trial. Derek stood in front of Natalie Harper's glass-walled office, the city skyline blazing behind her. She didn't invite him to sit. Her arms were crossed, her tone colder than the server room from the night before. You entered a high-clearance zone without authorization, she said flatly. I stopped an active breach, Derek replied, placing the tiny black chip on her desk. This was in the main port. Her jaw tightened, but her expression didn't soften. That's not your job. You broke protocol. Effective immediately, you're terminated. No thank you. No investigation. Just the final stamp of dismissal. Derek said nothing. No protest. No anger. He simply picked up his ID, turned, and walked out. But before leaving the building, he stopped by the assistant's desk. Quietly, without a word, he set down a plain USB drive, the backup footage from last night. He didn't wait for questions. The elevator doors closed behind him with a soft chime. He thought it was over. But he didn't know, that chip would be the first crack in a wall about to collapse. Sometimes, the truth doesn't knock. It kicks the door in. By noon, Natalie Harper's office was no longer quiet. The IT director stood in her doorway, pale, holding a tablet. Ma'am, we have a breach. A big one. Her pen stilled. Define big. He swallowed. Massive outgoing data pings from our backup servers. Code names, banking details, encryption keys. This has been going on for months. The breach protocols never triggered, because something was blocking the detection logs. Natalie's mind flashed to the black chip Derek had placed on her desk. The moment it was removed, the director continued, our systems picked it up. Whoever pulled it out, saved us. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. She already knew. In a single motion, she called up the USB Derek had left. The footage played, the grainy image of him sprinting after the intruder, nearly tackling the man before being shoved off. His voice booming, his body moving without hesitation. Her jaw clenched. Her chest tightened. She had fired the man who just saved her empire. The road to redemption can start on the quietest street in town. That evening, Natalie parked her black SUV in front of a modest, single-story house. A girl of maybe 10 opened the door. "He's in the garage," she said, smiling. Natalie followed the sound of running water. Derek was kneeling by an old pipe, sleeves rolled up, hands covered in rust. Across from him, an elderly woman, clearly the neighbor, stood watching. "He fixes everything for me," the woman said softly. "Won't take a penny." Derek didn't look up when Natalie stepped inside. "Whatever you're selling, not interested." "It's not a sale," she said quietly. "It's an apology." He finally met her gaze, cool, guarded. "Took you long enough. You saved the company. You caught the breach." "I did my job," he cut in, standing. "And you fired me for it." Her shoulders dropped. "I was wrong. I want to make it right. I want you back, on your terms." Derek's eyes narrowed. "What changed?" Natalie's voice lowered to a whisper. "Everything. Back inside." Derek found ghosts in the machine. His first week back at Howlett, he spent long nights combing through archived network logs. Most looked ordinary, until he found patterns. Repeated vendor transactions. Rounded invoices. Dates that matched unrelated system overrides. It didn't feel like random noise. It felt designed. He called Lisa Granger, a former cyberforensics officer from his military days. Sharp, methodical, impossible to intimidate. She flew in the next day. By the end of the week, they had it. The CFO, Malcolm Bray, had been quietly bleeding the company through shell vendors, millions over months, disguised as consulting fees. Derek compiled the evidence. Lisa added the final touch, an audio clip of Bray threatening an outside contact to destroy records. At the emergency board meeting, Derek played it. The voice was unmistakable. Bray didn't even finish his coffee before security walked him out. Natalie addressed the board with fire in her voice. "We rebuild, in the open." They thought the storm had passed, but the clouds were only gathering. Heroes make headlines, but in the shadows, enemies multiply. Within a week, Derek noticed the shift. Colleagues avoided eye contact. A black SUV parked across from his home, every night, every morning. Lisa called him. "They're watching you. And not just curious watching. Threat watching." So they set a trap. Hidden sniffers in Howlett's network to catch unauthorized logins, email scraping, backdoor monitoring. 36 hours later, the net closed. 2 board members, Robert Keane and Elise Tanaka, caught red-handed, plotting to fabricate documents framing Derek for falsifying the Bray evidence. Derek didn't stay quiet. He went public, an op-ed titled "The Price of Truth," a sharp indictment of corporate retaliation against whistleblowers. It went viral. Natalie suspended both members before the day was out. For now, the SUV stopped coming. But Derek knew better than to relax. The deeper you dig, the more dangerous the ground becomes. 2 months after Bray's removal, Howlett's surface gleamed. Profits were up, the press loved the company's new era of integrity, and employees walked the halls with lighter steps. But Derek didn't trust the shine. Buried inside insurance records, he found them, injury claims, small at first, then larger. Payouts funneled to shell companies with generic names. The deeper he traced, the more they connected, until the web pointed to one man. COO Lance Redwood. Charismatic, Harvard-educated, always ready with a polished speech about ethics. But behind that charm? 7 fake vendors, all tied to a single offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Derek called Lisa. They needed proof, airtight, undeniable. So they set the bait, a routine compliance audit, supposedly from an outside agency. In reality, Lisa's team, under fake credentials, would dig into every bite of Lance's activity. They worked fast, silent. Within days, the picture was clear: Lance wasn't just stealing, he was orchestrating cover-ups that made Bray's schemes look clumsy. If Lance smelled the trap, they'd both be finished. Some meetings are the end of the road. Natalie's office. Curtains drawn. Just her, Derek, and Lance Redwood. "We're reviewing compliance gaps," Natalie began, tone calm but cold. "Derek has questions." Lance smirked. "Always happy to help." Derek slid a single sheet of paper across the desk. "Account numbers. Vendor names. Offshore bank details. Signatures, all Lance's." Lance's smile faltered. "This is absurd." "Say another word," Natalie cut in, "and I'll have you in handcuffs before you hit the parking lot." Silence. Security entered without a sound. Lance didn't fight as they walked him out. Minutes later, his credentials were wiped from every system Howlett owned. The board would call it a victory. Derek knew better. It was over, or so they thought. Titles fade, but character doesn't. The board voted unanimously. Derek Miles, the guard they once discarded, was now Howlett's new chief operations officer. But power wasn't the goal. His first act was to launch a foundation for whistleblowers in tech, a shield for those who spoke up when no one else would. He filled his team with the overlooked, veterans, single parents, even reformed ex-cons. People who knew the weight of being written off. Natalie stood before the board and the press, her voice steady. "We built this company on vision. He saved it with integrity. From now on, we honor both." The cameras loved it. Investors loved it. Derek tolerated it. Because on Friday night, he was back where it mattered most, at Mrs. Ortega's small front porch. 2 grocery bags in hand, same smile, same quiet "Evening, ma'am." The kind of act no headline could measure. The company was stronger. The culture had changed. For now. It began with a flicker, a red light only he noticed. And somewhere, in some other building, another light was Al.